we're starting the Passkeys launch live stream. Seems exciting, isn't it, Keith?
Woo! I know, I'm excited.
Oh, I don't know why I heard a playback, but cool. I guess we could possibly, start with a few icebreakers while we wait for everybody else to kind of load in.
Sounds good.
Cool. So, what's your favorite new movie going on right now?
Oh, new movies? I haven't made it to many movies lately, but Dune Part 2 is obviously the easy answer for that. I got to see that in IMAX as an early fan screening, and it was awesome.
As an early fan, so you got like a special ticket or something?
Yeah, it took going to the website and buying one. It wasn't anything special in that regard. But there was an IMAX about 45 minutes from me, and it was well worth the drive. To see a sandworm on the big screen with that sound system, like, it felt like the room was shaking. It was awesome.
Yeah, I thought you had to go up to somebody and be like Lisa and Alka, even then they give you one. I don't know.
No, there were definitely no passwords or secret messages shared or anything like that.
Unfortunately, yeah. No, that's honestly awesome. So I guess we could possibly just start. So yeah. Keith, do you want to kind of give a intro to like what we're here to talk about today?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi everybody, welcome. I'm Keith Casey. I'm a product manager over at Pangea. I live and breathe our APIs, and specifically within like our sort of world of what we're tackling, authentication and authorization are what I tend to do. So been working in that space for quite a while. Specifically, what we're here to talk about today is within our authentication product, AuthN. We really recently launched Passkeys, and Passkeys are a quick and easy way of being able to log into things.
Yep, that's right. Keith, I think your video is freezing, but while Keith is on his way back, I'm Pranav. I'm a dev advocate here at Pangea. I basically manage a lot of the developer experience stuff on Pangea's products. And yeah, we're really excited. We just launched a login with Passkeys button. We are here today to talk about what Passkeys are, how to use them, and how you can implement them in your apps the fastest way possible. And with that, is Keith back?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, your video is a little frozen, but I mean, I guess we can still run with it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. The internet, this whole internet thing, I think is just a fad. We'll get it figured out eventually. All right, I downshifted my resolution there. Let's see if that helps at all.
Okay, sounds good. Cool. So Keith, since I think you've been in the authentication and identity space for a lot of years, kind of curious to know, how do we get to Passkeys? What are Passkeys, and how do we get all the way here?
Yeah, it's kind of a complex, ugly path. If we rewind a little bit, generally when we're creating accounts, we have a username and password. Pretty straightforward. We know that. We also know that most passwords are terrible. If we look at the average password, it's very short. It doesn't have a lot of complexity built in, because most people, and I'm talking about most people in general, not just developers, most people in general try to have passwords they can remember. I'll never forget, my grandmother keeps a note card with her passwords in her purse. And I said, Grandma, you need to use a password manager. And she said, well, why? And I said, well, because then you'll be able to generate longer, better passwords to protect your bank account and everything. And the password manager will remember them for you. And she said, well, I don't need something like that. I have this this note card that keeps all my passwords for me. Unfortunately, that, like, while I kind of chuckle out of pain when I think about that story, it's kind of the baseline for a lot of people. And when we think about, like, when we're securing applications, when we have these things going, that's where most people begin and end. A little bit more clueful people will use a password manager, usually the one built into the browser. Some more advanced people will use something like a 1Password to synchronize passwords across devices. But while all those are great, they don't protect you from the scenario of the website that you're using is compromised. That password and potentially the hash, hopefully the hash, gets leaked somewhere, and someone is able to regenerate or generate a collision to be able to figure out what a password might be that matches that. Passkeys resolves, well, actually, before we even get to Passkeys, multi-factor addresses not really that risk, but it adds a layer of protection. So instead of just what you know in terms of a password, it adds something like what you have, like a right. TOTP authenticator, SMS, phone, email, like click an email magic link, something along those lines. Passkeys shifts the mindset completely. It right. starts from the premise that a password's not secure, which we know that. But then it generates a key value pair that gets registered with the website. And then now instead of this password being passed around and shared and everything like that, the key value pair, the private key is kept locally, the key value pair is generated across, and now there's really not anything for it to be stolen. There's nothing that's really easy to get a hold of. And you don't have to worry about accidentally putting it in on the wrong website or something like that.
That's actually pretty cool. I mean, I think we've been through passwords to like magic links to MFAs and Passkeys just seems like a new kid on the block. So I mean, I think that is, but I mean, it's definitely cool to see how it's a lot more secure and a lot faster.
Yeah, and it's somewhat the new kid on the block, but at the same time, it's based on like a set of standards that we've had for a while. So Passkeys is an implementation of the AuthN API, and the AuthN APIs come from the FIDO Alliance. And the FIDO Alliance, laid out protocol standards for all these different things. Some of them have been great and have been adopted. Some of them are less so. But like Windows Hello is another variation of the exact same concept. Obviously, if it's Windows Hello, that's bound to a specific vendor. And if you're not using Windows, it's less useful. Passkeys are more cross-vendor support for the same thing.
That's actually pretty cool. So it's like kind of like a web standard that you kind of use, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, that sounds awesome. But I mean, what's wrong with MFA methods? Why are MFA methods not the best or the most secure way of going about things? Because I mean, most recently, Google rolled out Passkeys and made that kind of the default authentication method for new accounts. Amazon rolled it out very recently, and there's been so many companies that have actually been like starting to roll out Passkeys. So like, what is it with Passkeys that a lot of companies find it awesome to kind of move towards?
So with with MFA in general, you have two different sort of variables you have to balance. One is you've got the security of the factor itself, and the other one is the usability or the deployability. So if we maximize one, so if we maximize the security of the factor itself, we end up with an approach like YubiKeys. YubiKeys are exceptionally secure. They're, as far as I know, they're impossible to break. They're impossible to clone, all that sort of thing. The problem is on the deployability side or the usability side, they're miserable because you have to physically ship a YubiKey to everyone that needs to use one. And that ends up being a time-consuming, costly, and just painful method, especially if somebody starts losing their YubiKeys or anything like that. So if you maximize that way, you end up with a problem. If you maximize the other way and you say, well, let's focus on usability and not worry so much about security, we end up with something like SMS. SMS is exceptionally easy to deploy because I think just about anyone who is on the internet at this point has a phone or a phone number, to be more precise, a phone number that can get a text message. That's fantastic. It's super easy to deploy. Everyone can do that. The problem is it's not very secure because, well, how do I know somebody didn't SIM jack that phone? Like, what happens if I lose my phone? What happens if my phone battery is dead? Can I not log into my bank account? Can I not log into my airline to be able to check my flight?
I mean, I think most importantly, you also have like SIM swapping attacks, right?
Yeah.
Being able to like port a number over to like let's say we have a hacker Vanessa that kind of wants to clone my mobile SMS OTP. She could just port my number over to her phone by impersonating me to my phone company and kind of do a swim swapping attack, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's why like MFAs are, I mean, they're a great solution, and but like they're not practical. I remember at one of these security conferences, I remember a CISO talking about how he had to get 400 YubiKeys keys shipped for everybody in the company, and how that was a nightmare of a process. So it definitely seems like, you know, there needs to be a better solution. So I'm yeah. So Keith, if you don't mind, could I go over and start showing people how to use Pangea and how the passkeys are really cool and why they're really cool?
Absolutely. And while you're doing that, I'm going to disconnect and reconnect, turn it off,
Okay.
turn it back on, and see if my internet gets better. So I'll be
Sounds
right
great.
back while you're doing your thing.
Thank you. So yeah, hey everyone, for those of you who just joined, we're doing a demo on how to implement passkeys in just a few in just a few simple clicks, and we're using Pangea to be able to enable this. And so we jump in. I have a simple React.js app that I built on the side using the Create React app. It's basically a simple bare bones web app, right? And if we look at our if we look at how this thing works, is we're just importing something called an auth provider from Pangea to kind of keep the authentication state of my app, and then we implement a few fancy login and logout buttons. I feel like it'll be better if I kind of walk through it and show you a demo, then explain how this thing works. So yeah, as Keith mentioned, passkeys are really cool. It's based on public key cryptography. And I mean, we have there are tons of resources online, and Pangea itself has a secure by design education hub that you can check out, where we talk about more of the under the hood of how it works. But in simple words, the way it works is every time you register a new passkey, you have like a public private key pair that's generated, and the way you authenticate is you give your public key to the particular website that you register with, and your private key is stored on your device. So this could be your Chrome profile, this could be your password manager, it could be Windows Hello or whatever it is that's storing your private key. And the advantage of this is your private key can't really leave that particular device. So that's how these passkeys are technically supposed to be designed by the by the Web AuthN standard. So but yeah, just getting in, let's kind of quickly go skim through this. So since Keith was talking about how he watched the Dune movie recently, and that's been going around, we kind of themed this demo around Dune. So I just started my React server. I just click on login, and it says, welcome to the House of Atreides. Forgive me for my pronunciation. And I'm just gonna kind of sign up, right? I'm just gonna sign up with my email address and hit continue. And once I do that, it's gonna ask me for a password. So I'm just gonna write in a super secret password. Let's see if I can just ask Google to suggest one. I don't want to set that up, but anyways, so let me just set up a password. Wonderful. Hit continue. And now, because it's of the Dune theme, I'm gonna put Lisan Algaib, just because, and then hit submit, right? And over here, I'm prompted to add a passkey, right? And this is actually, if you see this, you don't need to really be worried, because it's actually a fairly simple process. So if I just click on add passkey and on my Chrome browser, right, I can choose various different places I want to store this to. For now, I'm probably going to use my Chrome profile, since it's the easiest way for me to do right now. But I mean, if you had a password manager, you could store it there. If you want like multi-device support, so you can use the same passkey on your phone, on your computer, or you can, you could store it in a hardware security key, or even on your phone, right? So we'll choose Chrome profile, hit continue. and then it says, hey, this is the email address that you want to associate the passkey to. Should we use this? And I'm just going to say continue. And then over here, as you can see, it's going to ask me to verify with my biometrics or my system, my computer's operating system authentication, that it's actually me, and is asking me to, kind of verify that I want to perform this action. I want to register this particular public key with the website, saying that this public private key is me, Pranav, right? Or Lisan Algai, for example, right? And there we go. We logged in, and we can see our email address right here. And there's a simple Dune. There's a funny little Dune meme that says Paul uses Passkeys, and then the famous Lisan Algai, the famous meme. But anyways, the advantage of this is we just registered a passkey, but now let's look at what the login experience is like, right? So now if I hit log out and then go back and hit login again, I don't really have to go through any of this email authentication or Google authentication or any of that stuff, right? All I can do is just hit sign in with passkey, select the particular key. So in this case, it was pranavshikarpur.dune@pangea.cloud, hit that, and then authenticate with my Mac, and then there we go. We're just logged in. So with one simple click, users can kind of just use that particular, passkey that they stored on their browser or their password manager, wherever, and automatically log in. So you don't really need any more MFAs. You don't need passwords. You don't need, magic links, none of that. And so this not only makes your user authentication process more seamless, it could possibly also increase, your conversion rates of users signing up. But that being said, it also makes it a lot more secure. There's a lot lesser attacks that can be performed against these types of authentication methods. So yeah, I mean that's how passkeys kind of work on the just to kind of see how the user experience is like. Let me just check if Keith is back. Oh, Keith, you're back.
Hey,
without a frozen video.
You noted the the private key is stored on the device, and it's stored like in your vault and everything. The value of the fact that doesn't travel over the wire is huge. It cannot be compromised if it doesn't leave your vault. And I say vault instead of machine because like you pointed out, like it could be stored in your iCloud, it can be stored in your 1Password, whatever. We really don't care. The browser itself doesn't care as long as it has access to it. And so you can synchronize that credential, that private key across whatever devices you're on. So if you've got multiple browsers, if you've got multiple phones, if you've got your iPad, whatever, all connected to the same vault. And now you've got one set of credentials across everything. And that just simplifies things. And it's really cool because that's there, because that never transmits across the wire outside your vault. It just can't be compromised. Right. Unless you export and hand it to somebody, and just don't do that with passwords. Just do that.
Yeah, that sounds more like a user error.
I think that's a fair thing.
But that being said, as I walk through this, if you want to try it out, there's a deployed version. I think it should pop up on the live stream, the URL. But if you just go to passkey-auth.vercel.app, you can log in, set up your own passkey, and see what the experience is like. It's a very simple demo, so you can feel free to mess around with it. But it's honestly a great way if you want to kind of follow along and see how this works. Right?
Hey, Pranav, can we switch over to the admin console and show what it takes to turn it on?
Sure.
So this is everything we've shown so far is all from the end user's perspective, and that's important. That's where you want to make things as easy as possible. But you, as a Pangea admin, still have to turn it on. So let me show you. I think it's 27 steps. No, I'm kidding. It's like 2 steps to turn on. We'll go ahead.
Like 27 steps. Aren't you the product manager? I'm kidding. But I believe it was in the we have so many projects on the dev advocacy side, so I just had to go through this whole thing.
All right. So let's first go over and hit on the left-hand side there, go into AuthN and hit the login sign-up flow.
Sure.
So this is the normal place that you've got all these capabilities added. So if you wanted primary authenticators, you wanted secondary authenticators, you could set all these. If you look at the top there, there's that green box that says passkeys are enabled. One unique thing about the way we've implemented passkeys is that some vendors, some implementations, once you enable passkeys, it turns off every other option. That's an approach, But then what you end up with is if somebody loses their device or something happens, now you as an admin have to go in and support them and reset it and handle all that yourself. That's not a great approach. So instead, what we recommend, Pranav, go ahead and click on single sign-on.
Sure.
We suggest Passkeys as an alternative approach. So you still have your normal authentication methods. Passkeys just ends up being a super convenient, super secure way of doing it. So we've got two aspects here. One, you enable it. That's the first box. And the second one is you decide whether or not to allow fallback to other authenticators. And that's just primarily for customer support to speed that along and make life easier there. But you turn those two on, and now you've got Passkeys enabled for your org.
Yep. No, that's kind of what's awesome about Pangea is the fact that you can enable all these flows in just one click. If I want secondary authentication for social auth, I can just enable that and choose another secondary auth method that's of higher strength, right? So I can enable SMS, TOTP, magic links, and I can do all of this with just like one click, right? That's what's awesome about this. I guess like just kind of diving in just to show you from a code standpoint of how easy it is to implement something like this. Is I have a simple React.js app, and I'm using the Pangea React Auth package, which is just like kind of a package that helps you add some wrappers around your React app to be able to implement this, right? And so over here, what I'm doing is I'm basically importing the auth provider package. I say the auth provider component, which kind of keeps context or the state of the authentication across the app, right? Putting that in my index.js file. And then once we go into our app, what you'll notice is I just have like just a few lines of code here. So if we close this out, you'll see I just have a logout button, if a user's logged in, and a login button if a user's not logged in based on the authenticated state. And I also have, once the user is logged in, I can display, their email, which is how we're kind of seeing welcome my user email, right? And all of this information is just pulled from a simple React hook, right? So in just like a couple lines of code, we're able to implement this. We're not implementing, any of the auth logic. We're not really implementing any of that, the code to make Passkeys work. Because if I was traditionally to design Passkeys, I'd have to have a backend server that can kind of store these keys. I'd have to kind of implement that whole, web AuthN approach, which is, in my opinion, pretty hard. I mean, Keith kind of, I think, has a better knowledge on how that works. But the advantage is because we're using Pangea hosted pages, all of this becomes super simple. So when I hit login, it just takes me to the URL you see here is just a Pangea hosted page. And this can be, configured on your own domain and can be branded just like I did for like the Dune theme. But that's what's awesome. You can customize it however you want, and you don't really have to worry about the login pages anymore because Pangea handles all of it.
And hold on, freeze on this screen for a second. Oh, yeah.
Oh, shit.
So one of the things that Pranav has on this one is that there's a bunch of passkeys labeled here. Generally, there'd only be one in the list to make this super easy. So even this is the complicated view, and it's pretty simple. We really want to make sure that the easy way happens to be the right way and the secure way. And that's what all this boils down to. We want to make it as easy as possible to make your users and your applications as secure as possible.
Yeah. No, I mean, the other reason why I have a lot of these is because of the number of demos I've done with this on different calls. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's what Passkeys are all about. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat. We'd be happy to look at them and give them an answer. But yeah.
Yeah, one of the questions that always comes up for me is, should you disable SMS as a factor? I'm a big fan of that. If you look at the way you look at your Pangea org when you first turn it on, we don't have SMS turned on by default. We really, while we acknowledge how easy it is to deploy, it also has some issues. And so we really want to be able to give people a more secure package out of the box. So you might run into like email code or magic link to be able to simplify that. We generally recommend like TOTP as a good solid option. yes, you do have to configure an application like a Google Authenticator, or even 1Password will do it. But frankly, most of the people who are sort of legitimately worried about these sort of scenarios already have something like that available.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a website that does primary authentication method as TOTP, but I feel like there is a website that exists on the internet that uses that.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking primarily as secondary, just to streamline that.
Yeah.
And then for this doesn't come up so much for Passkeys, but we also support SAML authenticators too. So in case you have your own, like an enterprise IDP, you could go ahead and set up a SAML provider behind the scenes. It's not usually used with Passkeys as far as I've ever seen, but no, it's in your toolbox.
It's something, I mean, if you ever, if you have SAML already implemented, or if you scale where you need that, Pangea has that out of the box. But I think one more thing we forgot to mention that Pangea really does have, which in my opinion is honestly really cool, is our threat intel services. So every time a user, one of your user logs in through Pangea, you can kind of in the under the hood, it's if we go under like security controls, you'll see what it's doing here is it's like checking the domain the user logged in from, checking if that's malicious or if it's a spam domain. And you can set your own rules on whether you want to block it, whether you don't want to block it, what you want to do. It checks the IP address of the user logging in, seeing if all of that's good. It's like enriching it with a lot of other data, such as like, is the user logging in with a VPN? Is the user logging in with a proxy? Is the user, where is the user logging in from, right? So the advantage is, if you were to traditionally block spam users, if you were using something like next.js, or if you were using, a traditional auth provider, it would be really hard to do that. And the main reason is because you got to add these services in yourself. And the advantage of using Pangea Auth here is that you get all of this out of the box. It's just a bunch of clicks and all this works. So just before I know you're dying to talk about the IP enrichment and stuff.
Yes,
but just before I get into that, what's awesome is like if we go into the React app, I just use a use effect to print out the user. And what's awesome here is once the user logged in, and if I open, I believe it's the profile. If I open the active token, right? I have all the intelligence information here. So I know, is the domain intel bad? I hope it's not, and it came out to be false. I can see the IP intel that the user logged in from. I can see if the user logged in from a proxy, and yes, I am logging in from the company proxy. But that being said, all of this comes out of the box, and you can just see it in the tools we provide you. Sorry, keep going.
No, not at all. I mean, this is great. I learned a lot. No, actually, security controls, all the threat intel stuff are some of my favorite stuff in the system. I'm a firm believer in the best way to protect your app, your users, your community is to keep the bad actors out from the start. So if you can go ahead and put those controls in place at registration time, at authentication time, you can lock down your community and make sure that, hey, look, is this IP address part of a known bot network? Are they coming from a proxy or VPN? Is this domain a known malicious domain? One of the things I've seen quite a bit is that these services like CrowdStrike and domain tools and everything, you can buy these independently on your own. The monthly cost of those contracts is a little high. So we've been able to embed these into our system itself, and now it's a straight up per use consumption-based model. So you can apply tools that you just haven't had before. And then the reason we did the user session enrichment is that while we have allow and block here on these security controls, I'm a firm believer that you probably will want to do other things with it. Like if somebody comes in through a VPN, maybe they're not a malicious user, maybe they've got a legitimate reason, like Pranav using the company VPN. Okay, maybe you don't want to block them outright, but you want to be able to put them into a more suspicious category until you've evaluated their behavior and said, okay, this person's probably legitimate. Let's let them out. Or they've come through a proxy that the proxy itself might have a lot of users behind it, and some are good and some are bad. So think of like your mobile device and your carrier network, that sort of proxy. So you may not want to block on a hand, but you want to be able to monitor that and know here's the origin of where this person came from.
I think a great example of this is like, media companies like Netflix, right, or Amazon Prime, they have a lot of content regulations that they can't play in certain countries, and a lot of the times they want to make sure that people coming in from VPNs can't really, they probably aren't legally allowed to see that content. So
Yeah.
doing something like user session enrichment is definitely a great way for you if you have that particular use case. If you're in healthcare, if you're in fintech or whatever, and you have to kind of do that, this is a great way to do it.
Well, and when you get into like the embargo check, that's where we apply the U.S. and UN standards for which countries you're allowed to do business with. So you can turn that on out of the box. But we'll set aside that scenario for a second. Maybe you're a healthcare company and you only want to provide or you only provide services to people in the U.S. You probably don't need to open it up to the whole world to be able to block this out of the box. Just means inherently you're going to be a little bit more secure. You're going to be a little bit more constrained in who you offer things to, which is a totally legitimate thing to do.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what's awesome. The fact that I can turn all of this on in a few clicks. You can have a domain access list, domain block list, and all of that fun stuff. So, yeah, and when you sign up for Pangea, you get 5,000 free MAUs, and you also get $5 of free credits through which you can set up stuff. You can scale to a bunch of users. I mean, I feel like if you're doing 5,000 users, your app is pretty popular, and you definitely need to lock it down and secure it. So, so I think Pangea will definitely kind of help you there. But that being said, if you want to, sorry, go on.
No, if you do get to that 5,000 user point, under the users area of the admin, you can go ahead and import those users. If you just get a CSV from your existing user tables or whatever the case may be, you can go ahead and import that. We'll take the raw passwords. We don't recommend that, but if you have the raw passwords, we can do that. But we also support about 7 or 8 different password hashes. So the cool thing for you is that you don't have to worry about sending that dreaded email out to your users saying, hey, by the way, you're going to have to reset your password. No, forget that. We'll import the hashes. And the next time they log in successfully with that password, we can go ahead and put them into the user flow and finish that onboarding process. So it's painless to end users.
That's really impressive. It's kind of crazy. I guess finally, just the other thing that you can do is you can also audit log. So every time a user logs in, you can check what user logged in, if they're running any of your, you can add audit logging to check if they're running any critical endpoints, and all that stuff. And every time you hit a token to Pangea and check, hey, is this user logged in? Is this user not logged in? All of this gets logged. So, the next time you accidentally have a data breach, I hope you don't, touch wood, you can see all of this because these audit logs are immutable. You just come into the activity log session. All of this is done for you, right? And that's I think what the beauty of hosted pages is you don't really, managing login pages is a developer's worst nightmare because as Keith, you say, login pages don't earn raises, and as a developer, I hate managing login pages because it just doesn't give the company any revenue. It doesn't do much for the company. So I think taking that burden off myself and putting it on a service like Pangea is what, in my opinion, is honestly awesome.
Yeah, and while we've primarily been talking about AuthN here, AuthN is really kind of a set of components all pulled together for one solution. So everything we showed under the security controls, if you just need those individual services in your apps, you can go ahead and use any of the APIs for those. So embargo and IP intel and domain intel, you can do that. Pranav has the secure audit log on screen right now. That's an independent service unto itself. So if you don't need AuthN and you just need these individual components, cool, we've got that too. We just really view AuthN as that sort of composed software of here's a complete solution from beginning to end. But hey, look, it's Legos. Build what you need.
Yeah. No, and I think we got a fun little comment from Adarsh saying he found it super easy to implement Passkeys using Pangea, and he's like, this is awesome. So yeah, thanks, Adarsh. We hope you use it in your app too in production. We hope to see that. But that being said, visit Passkey-auth, passkey-auth.vercel.app. I think my colleague will put that in the live stream. But also we're running a product hunt campaign today. So if you want to help us, and I hope you do, please visit the link on that website or on our website. It should be somewhere there. But yeah, and give us an upvote, give us a review. Check it out. If you have any questions, we have a Pangea community, which you'll find on our website, community.pangea.cloud, where you can ask questions, and I will be there to answer it and make sure that you get an answer for that. So please visit this, give us an upvote. We'd be super excited. Thank you.
And looks like we got another question in. Can you say a bit about integration with internet banking solutions like Temenos, Infinity, CR2? I can't speak to those specifically, but one of the things that we mentioned briefly in this is that we can sit in front of your existing SAML provider. We're also working on very similar for OpenID Connect, so that if you've got a standards compliant identity provider, we can sit in front of that and add all these capabilities to that flow. The alternative is if you're using something like a pluggable system, like Auth0 does this quite a bit. You can plug our components into that authentication flow itself. But I'd love to be able to understand exactly what you're thinking, exactly what problems you're trying to solve. Feel free to drop me a note. I'm keith.casey@pangea.cloud. And I think I'm linked in all the documentation and everything for this. Drop me a note. Happy to chat and learn what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can also, also reach out to us on Twitter. Our handles are out there. But yeah, that's awesome. Do we have any other questions possibly in the chat?
I don't see any popping up.
Okay. Cool. Keith, how many times are you gonna watch Dune a few more times?
I would really love
target number of times.
Yeah, I'd love to go see it again. The problem I run into, it's 45 minutes each way to the movie theater from where I live.
Shit.
So I have to plan it like the half again the movie just to be able to have time to do it. But I'm thinking about doing that on Friday night. As long as I can spend on IMAX, it definitely seems useful.
So if any of you go watch the Dune movie and you think of like awesome Passkey puns with Dune references, feel free to tweet it at us. We'd love to spotlight those. So tweet it at pangea.cyber. We'd love to repost those. We're always looking for fun little spice trade Passkey memes. Aren't we, Keith?
Control the spice, control the universe.
Yeah. It's just like Passkeys, you gotta have a secure method, and Passkeys can let you unlock the world. So
I think you're reaching, but I appreciate the effort. 10 out of 10 for
I'm
effort,
reaching too far. Yeah. Cool. But yeah, again, last but not the least, visit passkey.vercel.app to play around with this yourself. I'm gonna say this again, but we're on Product Hunt today, so we'd love we really appreciate the upvotes and the love on our Product Hunt launch. But thank you all for everybody that joined. Thank you all for taking the time out and joining. We hope you learned something. And yeah, feel free to give this a shot. I think we'll probably put the links to the repos on the React app in the YouTube comments and the LinkedIn comments. So check those out if you want to deploy them yourself, play around with them yourself. But we have also extensive docs that show you how to do this. So yeah, but I think that's about it. Thank you so much, Keith. If you have any last words, feel free to go. Now's your time.
Oh, thank you. No, it's been good. Looking forward to seeing what people build.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thanks a lot. Go to pangea.cloud. Check us out. Thanks a lot for joining this live stream.